She was a waitress who helped an elderly woman who fell in the restaurant, while everyone else laughed and walked away. What she didn't know, the woman was the mother of the city's most powerful mafia boss. And that one act of kindness would pull her into a dangerous world where she'd have to prove she wasn't a threat, or die trying. The old woman hit the marble floor with a sound that made Amelia's heart stop. Oh my God! Amelia dropped the tray of dirty plates onto the nearest table and ran. Her sneakers squeaked against the polished floor of Bellissimo, the kind of upscale Italian restaurant where a single appetizer cost more than her hourly wage. Behind her, she heard laughter. Did you see that? Marcus, the head waiter, snorted. Probably drunk at 2 in the afternoon. Someone should call security, Chelsea added, not moving an inch from her station. Before she sues us or something. Amelia ignored them. The woman, small, silver-haired, dressed in an elegant navy coat, was struggling to push herself up, her face flushed with embarrassment. Her purse had scattered across the floor, lipstick and tissues everywhere. Ma'am, please don't move. Amelia knelt beside her, her voice gentle. Are you hurt? The woman looked up at her, dark eyes watering. For a moment, Amelia saw something in those eyes. Not fragility, but a sharpness that seemed out of place with the trembling hands. I'm fine, dear. Just clumsy. Let me help you up. Nice and slow, Amelia carefully supported the woman's elbow, taking most of her weight. The woman smelled like expensive perfume and peppermint. That's it. You're doing great. From across the restaurant, the assistant manager, Derek, called out loudly. Ma'am, if you're intoxicated, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Amelia's jaw tightened. She's not drunk. She slipped on your freshly waxed floor. Derek's face reddened, but he said nothing more. Amelia guided the woman to a quiet corner booth near the window, away from the lunch crowd's curious stares. She gathered the scattered belongings, gently placing them back in the purse. Let me get you some water, Amelia said. And maybe some lunch? On the house. The woman's eyes glistened. You're very kind. It's just human decency, Amelia smiled. Nothing special about that. But the woman's expression suggested otherwise. She touched Amelia's hand briefly, her fingers cold but her grip surprisingly strong. What's your name? Amelia. Amelia Santos. Thank you, Amelia Santos. The lunch rush ended. Amelia's feet ached as she cleaned tables, half listening to Chelsea and Marcus gossip about the crazy old lady who'd stayed for 3 hours, nursing a single cup of soup and watching the street through the window. Probably homeless, Chelsea said. Did you see that ratty coat? Amelia bit her tongue. The coat had been Burberry, but there was no point arguing. At 4:47 p.m., as Amelia was untying her apron in the staff room, she heard the sound. Low, rumbling, powerful. Car engines multiple. She walked to the front window and froze. 3 black SUVs, tinted windows reflecting the late afternoon sun, had pulled up directly in front of Bellissimo. They weren't parked. They were positioned, nose to tail, blocking the street. The restaurant fell silent. Men emerged from the vehicles. 6 of them, dressed in dark suits that probably cost more than Amelia's rent. They moved with synchronized precision, no wasted motion. One of them, broad-shouldered, with a scar through his eyebrow, opened the door and stepped inside. Derek nearly tripped over himself, rushing forward. Gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we're about to close. Lock the doors, the scarred man said. His voice was flat, final. Derek's face went white. What? Lock the doors. Another man moved to the entrance and turned the deadbolt. A third pulled the window shades. The cheerful afternoon light disappeared, replaced by the dim glow of the restaurant's pendant lamps. Amelia's pulse hammered in her ears. She looked at the corner booth. It was empty. Where is she? Marcus whispered, his earlier smugness completely gone. The side door opened, and the old woman walked back in. But she wasn't alone. 2 more suited men flanked her, but their posture was different. Protective, reverent. The woman's face had transformed. The trembling vulnerability was gone, replaced by an expression of cool authority. She walked to the center of the room and surveyed the staff with those sharp, dark eyes. "My name," she said quietly, "is Bianca Moretti." The name hit like a physical blow. Emilia heard Chelsea's sharp intake of breath, saw Derek sway on his feet. Moretti. Everyone in the city knew that name. The Moretti family didn't just have connections. They were the connections. They owned politicians, judges, construction companies, shipping yards. And at the center of it all was Lorenzo Moretti, a man whose name was spoken in whispers. This was his mother. "I came here today," Bianca continued, "to visit a restaurant my late husband once loved. I'm an old woman. I fell. And I learned something very important about the people who work here." The front door opened again. The man who entered didn't need an introduction. Lorenzo Moretti was tall, perhaps 40, with dark hair silver at the temples and eyes like black ice. He wore a charcoal suit that fit like it had been sculpted onto him. When he moved, everyone else seemed to shrink.
He didn't speak.
He simply looked at his mother, and she nodded toward the security office. "Bring me the footage," Lorenzo said. "From 2 p.m. until now." They watched it on the manager's computer, all of them forced to stand and watch. Emilia saw herself running to help. Saw Marcus laughing. Saw Chelsea's cruel smile. Saw Derek's accusation. Lorenzo's face remained expressionless throughout. When it ended, he stood,
Turned.
looked at each staff member in sequence. "You're fired," he said to Derek. You, and you." He pointed at Marcus, Chelsea, and two others who'd laughed. "Fired. You'll receive no references. If I hear you've spoken to the press about today, about my mother, about anything, you'll regret it." They didn't argue. They just left, grabbing their things in terrified silence. Finally, Lorenzo's eyes landed on Emilia. She forced herself not to look away, even though her knees felt weak. He studied her for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. "Remember this night," he said to the remaining staff. His voice was soft, which somehow made it worse. "Kindness is rare. Cruelty is common. Choose carefully which one you want to show to strangers." He turned to his mother, offered his arm. "Let's go home, Mama." As they walked toward the door, Bianca paused beside Emilia. She squeezed her hand once, warmly. "Thank you, dear girl," she whispered. "You have a good heart." Then they were gone. The black SUVs pulled away, disappearing into the evening traffic. Emilia stood in the dim restaurant, surrounded by shell-shocked coworkers, and wondered if she'd just witnessed something that would change her life forever. She didn't know how right she was. Emilia woke to the sound of knocking. Not the gentle tap of a neighbor or a delivery person. This was authoritative, deliberate. 3 sharp raps that said we're not leaving. She squinted at her phone. 7:23 a.m. She'd barely slept, her mind replaying yesterday's events like a horror movie on loop. The knocking came again. Just a second. She grabbed her robe, tying it as she stumbled through her tiny studio apartment. The place was barely bigger than a hotel room. Kitchenette, bathroom, and a bed that doubled as her couch. But it was hers, and the rent was barely manageable. She looked through the peephole, and her blood turned cold. 2 men in dark suits stood in her narrow hallway. The same kind of men from yesterday. One was looking at his phone. The other stared directly at the door, as if he knew she was watching. Oh God. Oh God. What did I do? Her mind raced. Had she offended Lorenzo somehow? Said something wrong? Maybe helping Bianca had been a test, and she'd failed without knowing it. Her hands shook as she undid the chain lock. "Miss Santos." The taller one spoke. He had kind eyes, which somehow made it worse. "I'm Vincent. This is Marco. We work for the Moretti family." I didn't mean to," Emilia's voice cracked. "Whatever I did wrong." "You didn't do anything wrong," Vincent's voice was surprisingly gentle. "Mrs. Moretti would like to see you. She asked us to bring you to the estate." Emilia blinked.
She.
"What?" "She'd like to thank you properly." For yesterday, Marco checked his watch. We can wait while you get dressed. Take your time. Am I in trouble?
No, ma'am.
Quite the opposite. 20 minutes later, Amelia sat in the back of a black Mercedes, her heart still racing. She'd thrown on the nicest clothes she owned, a simple navy dress and flats, but felt underdressed next to the car's leather interior. They drove out of her neighborhood, past the industrial district, through downtown, and into the hills where the city's wealthiest lived behind gates and walls. The Moretti estate wasn't just behind a gate, it was behind multiple gates, each one monitored by cameras and guards. The villa itself stole Amelia's breath. It was beautiful in an intimidating way, 3 stories of cream-colored stone, surrounded by manicured gardens with marble fountains and cypress trees. The morning sun painted everything gold. It looked like something from a movie. Vincent opened her door. Mrs. Moretti is in the solarium. I'll take you to her. Amelia followed him through halls lined with oil paintings and antique furniture. Everything whispered old money and older power. She passed a room where men in suits talked in low voices, falling silent as she walked by. The solarium was flooded with natural light, surrounded by windows overlooking a rose garden. Bianca sat in a cushioned chair, dressed in an elegant cream blouse and pearls, reading a leather-bound book. She looked completely different from yesterday's vulnerable woman on the floor. Amelia. Bianca's face lit up. She set down her book and stood, moving to embrace her. Thank you for coming. Mrs. Moretti, I didn't know I had a choice, Amelia admitted. Bianca laughed, a warm sound. You always have a choice, dear. But I'm glad you came. She gestured to the chair beside her. Please sit. Coffee?
Tea. Tea is fine.
Thank you. A woman in a black uniform appeared, poured tea into delicate china cups, and disappeared just as quickly. Bianca studied Amelia with those sharp eyes. You're frightened. A little, Amelia admitted. This is all very overwhelming. I understand. My son can be intimidating, Bianca sipped her tea. But I want you to know, you're not in any danger. You showed me kindness when everyone else showed me contempt. In my world, that's rarer than diamonds. Amelia felt her shoulders relax slightly. You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have. But they didn't. Bianca's voice turned sharp. You saw the footage. You were the only one who helped. The only one who saw a human being instead of an inconvenience. She set down her cup, her expression softening. I lost my daughter 15 years ago. Cancer. She was 31, Bianca's voice wavered. Since then, this house has felt cold. My son is good to me, but he's busy. He carries the weight of our family. The staff are professional but distant. I'm surrounded by people, Amelia, and I'm lonely. Amelia's throat tightened. She understood loneliness. Yesterday, when you helped me, you reminded me what genuine kindness feels like. You didn't know who I was. You didn't want anything. You just helped. Bianca reached over and took Amelia's hand. So, I have a proposition for you. A proposition? I need a personal attendant. Someone to keep me company, help me with daily tasks, accompany me on errands. Nothing illegal, she added with a slight smile. Just companionship and assistance. I know you work at Bellissimo, but I imagine after yesterday, that job might feel complicated. That was an understatement. Amelia had already received 7 texts from coworkers, each one a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed fear. I'm offering you a temporary position, Bianca continued. 3 months to start. Room and board included, plus a salary of $5,000 a week. Amelia nearly dropped her teacup. 5,000. I prefer honest hearts over polished manners, Amelia. You have the former. The latter can be learned. Bianca squeezed her hand. I'm not asking you to decide right now. But think about it. You'd be safe here. Comfortable. And I promise, I just need a friend. Amelia looked into Bianca's eyes and saw genuine loneliness there. Not manipulation. Not a trap. Just an old woman who'd lost her daughter and found a moment of kindness in a stranger. Can I ask you something? Amelia said quietly. Of course. Is this really just about companionship? Or is there something else? Bianca smiled, a sad, knowing smile. You're clever. That's good. Yes, it's about companionship. But it's also about trust. I need someone around me who isn't here because they fear my son or want family connections. I need someone real. Amelia thought about her studio apartment, her dwindling savings, the way her co-workers had looked at her yesterday, like she was suddenly radioactive. She thought about the warmth in Bianca's eyes. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Bianca's smile could have lit the whole room. Welcome to the family, dear. Amelia returned to Bellissimo one last time to collect her final paycheck and officially resign. She'd promised Bianca she'd start at the estate in 2 days, giving her time to pack up her apartment and settle her affairs. The moment she walked through the door, the whispers started. There she is, someone muttered. The remaining staff, those who hadn't been fired, clustered near the bar, staring at her like she was a circus attraction. Amelia kept her head down, heading straight for the manager's office. Sarah, one of the newer waitresses, stepped into her path.
So,
You're really leaving us for the Morettis. I got a better opportunity, Amelia said carefully. That's all. That's all. Sarah's laugh was sharp. Girl, everyone knows what kind of opportunity that is. Amelia's stomach twisted. What are you talking about? Oh, come on. Chelsea appeared from the kitchen, arms crossed. Despite being fired, she'd apparently come back just for this. You think we're stupid? You helped the old lady. Suddenly you're getting private car rides to their mansion? We all know what's really happening. Nothing is happening. You're sleeping with Lorenzo Moretti, Chelsea said loudly. Several customers' heads turned. That's the only reason someone like you would get pulled into that world. Heat flooded Amelia's face. That's insane. I've barely even spoken to him.
right.
Sure, Marcus joined them, his expression bitter. I lost my job because of you. Because you had to play hero and impress the mob boss's mother. You lost your job because you were cruel to an old woman. Amelia shot back, her patience snapping. That's not my fault. Everything was fine until you showed up with your fake kindness act, Chelsea hissed. Now look at us. Some of us can't find work because the Morettis blacklisted us.
But you?
You land on your feet. Funny how that works. Amelia grabbed her check from the office and left without another word, her hands shaking. She didn't see Marcus pull out his phone as she walked away. By the next morning, Amelia's phone was exploding. Text after text from old friends, former coworkers, even her landlord, all sending her the same link. She clicked it with trembling fingers. Waitress turned mistress. Who is the mystery girl living at the Moretti Villa? The article was on City Secrets, a trashy tabloid website known for half-truths and sensational headlines. But the photos were real, grainy shots of her getting into the Mercedes, being escorted into the estate, even one of her and Bianca in the solarium, taken through the windows with a telephoto lens. The article painted her as a gold digger, a social climber who'd seduced her way into one of the city's most powerful families. It claimed she was Lorenzo's secret girlfriend, that Bianca was just a cover story. Amelia felt sick.
Her phone rang.
Unknown number. Miss Santos. A woman's voice, professional. This is Metro Daily. We'd like to offer you $10,000 for an exclusive interview about your relationship with Lorenzo Moretti. I don't have a relationship with. $15,000. Final offer. Amelia hung up. 3 more news outlets called within the hour. At the Moretti estate, Lorenzo stood in his study, the tabloid article pulled up on his tablet. His consigliere, Frank, a gray-haired man who'd served the family for 30 years, stood across from him. The leak came from the restaurant, Frank said. 3 different staff members sold information and photos. We've identified them. And Lorenzo's voice was cold. They're being encouraged to leave the city. The tabloid is trickier. They're claiming journalistic freedom. Lorenzo set down the tablet. I want a complete background check on Amelia Santos. Everything. Financial records, family history, known associates, employment history. I want to know if she's ever even jaywalked. You think she's involved in the leak? I think my mother has taken a sudden, intense interest in a woman we know nothing about. Lorenzo moved to the window, looking out at the gardens where his mother and Amelia were currently having tea. That makes her either very lucky or very dangerous. Your mother's judgment is usually sound. My mother is lonely. Lonely people make emotional decisions. Lorenzo watched Amelia laugh at something Bianca said. The timing is convenient. She appears exactly when Mama needs someone. She's perfectly kind, perfectly humble. Nobody's that clean, Frank. We'll dig deep. Do it quietly. I don't want Mama to know. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. If this girl is playing my mother, if she's working for the Carbones or the Russians or anyone else, we'll find out, Frank assured him. But even as he said it, Lorenzo felt unsettled. He'd built his position on reading people, on spotting lies and manipulation from a mile away. Yet when he'd looked into Amelia's eyes at the restaurant, he'd seen nothing but genuine fear and genuine kindness. Which meant either she was exactly what she appeared to be, a near impossibility in his world, or she was the best actress he'd ever encountered. Both options made him uneasy. That evening, Amelia sat in her apartment, staring at her packed boxes. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Gold-digging whore. Hope Lorenzo throws you out when he's done with you. It was the seventh hateful message that day. She'd thought accepting Bianca's offer would solve her problems. Instead, she'd walked into a nightmare she didn't understand.
Her phone rang.
This time, it was Vincent. Miss Santos, Mrs. Moretti wanted me to check on you. She saw the article. Amelia's voice cracked. Vincent, I didn't say anything to anyone. I don't know how they got those photos. We know. We're handling it. His voice was calm, steady. Mrs. Moretti wants you to know that you're still welcome here. In fact, she'd prefer if you came tonight instead of tomorrow. For your own safety. My safety. The tabloids can be aggressive. It's better if you're behind our gates. Amelia looked around her tiny apartment, her whole life packed into 6 boxes, and made a decision. I'll be ready in an hour. We'll be there. As she finished packing, Amelia caught her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She barely recognized herself. 24 hours ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was on tabloid websites, receiving death threats, and moving into a mansion. The wolves only bite what they fear, Bianca had said. Amelia was beginning to understand what that meant, and she wasn't sure she was ready for it. The guest suite Amelia was given could have fit her entire apartment inside it twice. Cream-colored walls, a 4-poster bed with silk sheets, a marble bathroom with a soaking tub, and French doors that opened onto a private balcony overlooking the rose garden. Fresh flowers sat on the nightstand, white lilies that perfumed the air. Your belongings will be brought up shortly, Vincent said from the doorway. Mrs. Moretti requests your presence for breakfast at 8 a.m. Someone will come fetch you. Thank you, Vincent. He nodded and left, his footsteps silent on the plush carpet. Amelia sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled slowly. The mattress felt like a cloud. Everything here felt like luxury she'd only seen in magazines, yet the silence was oppressive. She could hear her own heartbeat. Through the walls, she heard low voices. Footsteps in the hallway. The estate was alive with invisible activity, people moving with purpose through corridors she hadn't yet explored. She was being watched. She could feel it. Not just by cameras, though she'd counted 6 since arriving, but by people. Staff who glanced at her sideways. Guards who tracked her movements. She was an outsider in a world that didn't welcome outsiders. Amelia barely slept that night. At 7:55 a.m., a soft knock announced Maria, an older woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She wore a crisp black uniform and had the bearing of someone who'd worked here for decades. Miss Santos. I'll escort you to Mrs. Moretti. Amelia followed her, through hallways she didn't remember from yesterday. The estate was a maze, turns and staircases and doors that all looked similar. Maria moved with the confidence of someone who could navigate it blindfolded. They passed a library where two men in suits examined documents. A sitting room where a young woman polished silver with meticulous care. Everyone stopped to watch Amelia pass, their expressions neutral, but their eyes calculating. Bianca was in a sun-drenched breakfast room, china plates and crystal glasses already set. She wore a soft lavender cardigan and smiled when Amelia entered. "There you are.
Come, sit.
I hope you slept well?" "The room is beautiful," Amelia said, which wasn't quite an answer. They ate breakfast, fresh fruit, pastries, perfectly scrambled eggs, while Bianca asked gentle questions about Amelia's life, where she grew up, her parents, her dreams. Amelia kept her answers honest but brief. She'd grown up in a small town 3 hours north. Her mother had died when she was 19, cancer, the same disease that took Bianca's daughter. Her father had remarried and moved to Arizona. She'd come to the city chasing dreams of something more than the factory job waiting for her back home. "You're alone," Bianca said softly. "Like me. I suppose I am." Bianca reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Not anymore." The days developed a routine. Mornings were spent with Bianca, helping her with correspondence, accompanying her on walks through the garden, sitting with her during physical therapy for her arthritis. Afternoons, Bianca napped while Amelia read in the library or explored the estate's public rooms. But it was during their tea times that Bianca truly opened up. "This was Gabriella's favorite room," Bianca said one afternoon, leading Amelia to a small conservatory filled with orchids. Sunlight streamed through glass panels, painting everything in gold. She loved flowers. She'd spend hours here, just talking to them like they were friends. Bianca touched a purple orchid tenderly. She was 31 when we lost her. Ovarian cancer.
It took her so fast, diagnosis too.
To the end was only 8 months. "I'm so sorry," Amelia whispered. "She looked like you, a little. Same gentle eyes. Same kind smile." Bianca's voice cracked. Lorenzo took it hard. He was 30 then, just beginning to take over family responsibilities from his father. Gabriella was his little sister. He blamed himself for not noticing she was sick sooner, though there was nothing anyone could have done. She turned to Amelia, tears glistening. "After she died, this house became a tomb. Lorenzo buried himself in work. My husband, he passed 5 years later, heart attack. And I was just here, surrounded by memories and ghosts." Amelia embraced her, and Bianca cried quietly against her shoulder. From the doorway, unseen by either woman, Lorenzo stood watching. He'd been observing Amelia for 3 days now, watching how she moved through the estate with careful respect, never touching anything she shouldn't, never asking questions about family business. How she treated the staff with the same kindness she'd shown his mother. How his mother laughed again. Real laughter, not the polite sounds she made at family dinners. His mother's eyes had light in them for the first time in years. She took her medications without complaint because Amelia brought them with chamomile tea and conversation. She ate full meals instead of picking at her plate. Amelia had done in 3 days what an army of nurses and companions hadn't managed in 15 years. She'd brought his mother back to life. Lorenzo watched them in the conservatory, his mother crying, Amelia holding her with genuine compassion. No cameras here. No audience. Just authentic human comfort. Frank appeared beside him, silent as a ghost. "The background check came back," Frank murmured. "And she's exactly what she appears to be. Ordinary girl, ordinary life. No debts beyond student loans, no criminal record, no connections to any family, ours or our enemies. She volunteers at a soup kitchen on weekends. Sends money to an elderly neighbor back in her hometown. Her biggest vice is spending too much on used books." Lorenzo frowned. "Nobody's that clean." I said the same thing. We dug deeper. Called in favors, checked international databases, even looked into her deceased mother's history. Nothing. She's either divine intervention or the most perfectly constructed cover identity I've ever seen. Which do you believe? Frank was quiet for a moment, watching Emilia wipe Bianca's tears with a handkerchief. I believe your mother has good instincts. And I believe that girl in there isn't pretending. Lorenzo wanted to agree. Every logical part of him said Emilia Santos was genuine, a rarity in his world, but not an impossibility. But in his business, trust got people killed. Keep watching her, he said quietly. I need to be sure. As he walked away, he didn't see his mother look toward the doorway, a knowing smile on her face. She'd seen him watching, and she knew exactly what it meant. Lorenzo sat in his private office at midnight, 3 monitors glowing in the darkness. Bank statements, employment records, social media archives, phone records going back 5 years, all belonging to Emilia Santos. Frank had delivered the initial report, but Lorenzo needed to see for himself. He'd learned long ago that analysts sometimes missed details, a transaction that seemed innocent but wasn't, a connection that appeared random but formed a pattern. He started with the financials. Emilia's checking account was depressingly modest. Monthly deposits from Bellissimo, never more than $2,000. Rent payments of $800 to the same landlord for 3 years. Utilities. Groceries from budget chains. A recurring charge to St. Anthony's Community Kitchen, $15 monthly. Donations. No large deposits. No offshore accounts. No unexplained cash flow. Her credit cards showed the same story. Used sparingly, paid off regularly. Recent purchases included books from a second-hand store, medicine from a pharmacy, and a single splurge, $40 at a nail salon 2 months ago. She's either incredibly disciplined or incredibly poor, Lorenzo muttered. He pulled up her employment history. For jobs in 6 years, all service industry. Coffee shops, diners, retail. Each employer gave the same reference: reliable, kind, hardworking. No terminations, no complaints, no drama. Her social media was equally mundane. An Instagram account with 200 followers, mostly photos of sunsets, books, and coffee cups. Her last post was 3 weeks old, a picture of a library book with a caption, "Sometimes the best escape is between pages." No political posts. No party photos. No suspicious contacts. Lorenzo moved to her education records. Community college for 2 years, studying English literature. 34 GPA. Dropped out when her mother got sick. Never went back. Student loans, $30,000, payments current despite her income. He opened her phone records next. This was where patterns usually emerged. Who someone called revealed more than what they said. But Emilia's call log was short. Monthly calls to a number in Arizona, her father. Weekly calls to a number in her hometown. Lorenzo cross-referenced it, found it belonged to an 82-year-old woman named Dorothy Chen, the neighbor Emilia sent money to. A few calls to coworkers from Bellissimo. That was it. No burner phones in her name. No prepaid cards. No encrypted messaging apps. Lorenzo leaned back, frustrated. He pulled up the surveillance footage from her apartment building. Frank had obtained it through channels Lorenzo didn't ask about. He watched 2 weeks of Emilia's life on fast forward. She left for work, came home, sometimes stopped at the grocery store. Twice she visited the soup kitchen, staying for 3-hour shifts. Once she went to a bookstore, browsed for an hour, bought nothing. She lived alone. No visitors. No secret meetings. No suspicious activity. She's a ghost, Lorenzo said to the empty room. A person with no vices, no secrets, no connections. He opened the deeper report, the one that had cost him significant favors to compile. Frank's team had interviewed her former employers, her landlord, people in her hometown. Every single person said the same thing. Emilia was kind, quiet, kept to herself. Helped elderly Dorothy with groceries. Volunteered without seeking recognition. Worked hard, never complained. They'd checked for sealed juvenile records, nothing. Medical records showed routine checkups, a broken wrist at age 12, depression treatment for 6 months after her mother died. Normal. They'd even looked into her deceased mother, Maria Santos, died at 53 from pancreatic cancer. Worked as a nurse. No criminal history, no debts, no secrets. Lorenzo opened the international databases. Sometimes people had histories in other countries, identities they'd left behind. Nothing. He checked databases that technically didn't exist, the ones that tracked intelligence operatives, undercover agents, witness protection participants. Nothing. Emilia Santos didn't exist before age 5, but that made sense. Birth records from her small hometown were paper-based until the late 90s, only partially digitized. Her baby photos existed, uploaded by her father to Facebook. Her kindergarten class photo was in the local newspaper archives. She was real. She'd always been real. So, why did Lorenzo feel like something was wrong? At 2 a.m., Frank entered without knocking. He carried a folder, the final report. I had 3 separate teams investigate her, Frank said, setting the folder on Lorenzo's desk. Different analysts, different methodologies, none of them knowing about the others. All 3 reached the same conclusion, which is, Emilia Santos is exactly who she claims to be. No hidden agenda. No connections to any organization, criminal or otherwise. No offshore money, no alternate identities, no electronic footprints suggesting deception. Frank paused. She's genuine, Lorenzo. Nobody's ever this clean. I know. In our world, everyone has something. A secret. A vice. A connection they shouldn't have. Lorenzo stood, pacing. Perfect innocence doesn't exist. Maybe it does, Frank said quietly. Maybe we've been in this life so long, we've forgotten what normal people look like. Lorenzo turned to him sharply. Frank met his gaze steadily. That girl upstairs, she's not from our world. She doesn't think like we think. She helped your mother because it was the right thing to do, not because she wanted something. She exists in a reality where people are just good. Sometimes. Or, Lorenzo countered, she's so deep undercover that even our best investigators can't find the cracks. That's either divine luck or a perfect mask. Then which do you believe? Lorenzo looked at the monitors, at 6 years of Emilia's unremarkable life spread across screens. At the evidence of an ordinary person living an ordinary existence. He thought about his mother's laugh, about the light in her eyes, about how Emilia had held her while she cried in the conservatory, with no cameras watching, no audience to impress. I don't know, he admitted. That's what worries me. Frank picked up the folder. Your mother trusts her. My mother is lonely. Your mother, Frank said carefully, survived 30 years as a Mafia wife. She's seen more deception and betrayal than most soldiers. If she thought that girl was a threat, she'd tell you. Lorenzo wanted to believe that. But belief was a luxury he couldn't afford. Keep the surveillance active, he ordered. I want someone watching her at all times. Not just her movements. I want to know what she talks about, who she befriends, what she does when she thinks no one's looking. Lorenzo. That's an order, Frank. Frank nodded slowly and left. Alone again, Lorenzo looked at the final photo in Emilia's file, her employee ID from Bellissimo. She was smiling, but it didn't reach her eyes. She looked tired.
Young.
Vulnerable. Not like someone plotting against his family. But appearances, Lorenzo knew, meant nothing. He would watch. He would wait. And if Emilia Santos was hiding something, he would find it. Even if it destroyed the first real happiness his mother had felt in 15 years. The article hit the morning news cycle like a bomb. Moretti mistress. Inside the scandalous romance between mob boss and former waitress. This time it wasn't just city secrets. Metro Daily, The Chronicle, even legitimate news outlets picked up the story. The photos were everywhere. Emilia entering the estate, walking through the gardens with Bianca, sitting on her balcony in her bathrobe drinking morning coffee. Someone had been watching her for days, photographing her through telephoto lenses, tracking her movements. Emilia stared at her phone in horror as notifications flooded in. The article claimed she was Lorenzo's secret girlfriend, that Bianca was helping facilitate the affair, that the Moretti family was modernizing by bringing in fresh blood from the working class. It painted her as a calculating seductress who'd orchestrated the fall at Bellissimo to catch Lorenzo's attention. Sources close to the family say Moretti has visited Miss Santos's private suite multiple times after midnight, the article read. Wedding bells may be in the future for the city's most notorious bachelor. Emilia felt sick. Lorenzo had never been to her room. She'd barely spoken 10 words to him since arriving. Maria knocked on her door. Miss Santos? Mrs. Moretti would like to see you immediately. Emilia's hands shook as she followed Maria downstairs. This was it. She was being thrown out, just like the hateful messages predicted. She'd be back in her studio apartment, blacklisted from every job, her face plastered across the internet as the girl who tried to con the Morettis. But when she entered the sitting room, Bianca wasn't angry. She was furious. Not at Emilia, at the tabloids. She stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, her voice sharp as broken glass. I don't care about your editorial independence, Richard. You print a retraction by noon, or I'll make sure your advertisers know exactly what kind of trash journalism they're sponsoring. She paused, listening. No, it's not a threat. It's a promise. She hung up and turned to Emilia, her expression softening immediately. Sit down, dear. You look pale. Mrs. Moretti, I swear I didn't. I know you didn't. Bianca guided her to the sofa. Someone leaked those photos. Someone with access to the estate or connections to our security team. My son is investigating. I should leave, Emilia said, tears burning her eyes. I'm causing problems. This was supposed to be simple companionship.
Not
this. You're not leaving. Bianca's voice was steel. Do you understand me? This is exactly what they want. They want to scare you away. Who's they? People who resent me having someone I care about. People who want Lorenzo distracted. People who see kindness as weakness. Bianca squeezed her hand. The wolves only bite what they fear, Emilia. And they fear you. Fear me? I'm nobody. You're the person who made me smile again. That makes you dangerous to anyone who benefits from my isolation. Bianca's eyes flashed. My son has many advisors, many people whispering in his ear. Some of them prefer when I'm sad and quiet, locked away in this house. You threaten that. Before Emilia could respond, Lorenzo entered. He looked dangerous. His suit was perfect, his expression controlled, but something cold burned in his eyes. He carried a tablet, which he set on the coffee table. We found the source of the leaks, he said without preamble. 3 separate people sold information. 2 former staff members from Bellissimo and 1 freelance photographer who's been surveilling the estate. Have you dealt with them? Bianca asked. The photographer is being encouraged to relocate. The restaurant staff have signed non-disclosure agreements with significant financial penalties. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. But the damage is done. Every news outlet in the city has run the story. He turned to Emilia, and she forced herself to meet his gaze. Miss Santos, I need to ask you directly. Did you speak to anyone about your position here? Anyone at all?
No, sir.
I haven't even told my father. He thinks I'm still working at the restaurant. Lorenzo studied her for a long moment. These photos were taken with professional equipment from multiple vantage points. Someone has been watching you, watching this house, for at least a week. Fear coiled in Emilia's stomach. Why would anyone care that much? Because attention is currency, Lorenzo said. And right now you're generating a lot of it. He picked up the tablet, scrolled through something. My legal team is preparing defamation lawsuits against 3 publications. We'll win, but it takes time. Until then, the story will spread. I'm sorry, Emilia whispered. I never wanted this. I know, Lorenzo's voice softened, barely perceptible, but there. This isn't your fault. But I need you to understand something. Once you're connected to this family, even tangentially, you become a target. People will try to use you, manipulate you, hurt you to hurt us. Lorenzo, you're frightening her. Bianca said sharply. She should be frightened. She should understand what she's walked into. Lorenzo looked at his mother. You're protecting her because you care about her. I respect that. But caring about someone in our world means making them vulnerable. So, what are you saying? Bianca's voice rose. That I should send her away? That I should be alone again because it's safer? I'm saying we need to be careful. The tension between mother and son was thick enough to cut. Emilia felt trapped between them. Bianca's fierce protection and Lorenzo's cold pragmatism. I'll make a public statement, Bianca announced. Today, I'll tell them exactly who Emilia is, my companion and friend. I'll make it clear that anyone spreading lies about her is spreading lies about me. Mama. I won't hide, Lorenzo. I won't let them drive away someone who matters to me. Bianca stood, regal despite her small stature. Call your PR team. We're doing this my way. Lorenzo sighed, but nodded. I'll arrange it. After he left, Bianca turned to Emilia. Her expression was gentle, but her words were firm. You need to decide if you can handle this. The attention, the scrutiny, the danger of being connected to us. She cupped Emilia's face. I won't think less of you if you choose to leave. But if you stay, you need to be strong.
Can you do that?
Emilia thought about her empty apartment, her dead-end job, her lonely existence. Then she thought about Bianca's laugh, the warmth of having someone who cared, the feeling of mattering to another human being.
I can be strong, she said.
Bianca smiled. Good. Because the wolves are circling deer. And we need to show them we don't scare easily. The formal dining room could seat 20 people. Tonight, it held 15, and Emilia felt every single pair of eyes on her. You didn't tell me this was a family dinner, Emilia whispered to Bianca as they entered. If I had, you would have been too nervous. Bianca squeezed her arm. Just be yourself, dear. That's all I ask. The table was set with china so delicate it looked like it would shatter if you breathed on it wrong. Crystal wine glasses caught the candlelight. Everything screamed old money and older traditions. Lorenzo sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. Around him sat men and women in expensive clothes, all bearing the same sharp intelligence in their eyes. This was the Moretti family, not just blood relatives, but the inner circle. Everyone, Bianca announced, this is Emilia Santos, my companion and friend. The silence that followed was deafening. A woman in her 60s with silver hair and cold blue eyes spoke first. Bianca, darling, how unexpected. You didn't mention you'd hired new staff.
She's not staff, Claudia.
She's my guest. Claudia, Lorenzo's aunt, Emilia realized, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Of course. Forgive me. Her gaze swept over Emilia's simple black dress. Welcome, dear. A younger man beside Claudia leaned forward. He was maybe 30, handsome in a sharp-featured way, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Emilia's car.
I'm Marco Moretti.
Lorenzo's cousin, his smile was warmer than his mother's, but something calculating lurked behind it. So, you're the famous waitress. The whole family's been talking about you. Marco. Lorenzo's voice was quiet, but carried a warning.
What?
I'm just being friendly. Marco raised his wine glass toward Emilia. It's not every day someone goes from serving pasta to dining with a Morettis. That's enough, Bianca said sharply. Dinner was served, multiple courses, each more elaborate than the last. Emilia tried to follow Bianca's lead on which fork to use, which glass was for which wine. She felt like an imposter playing dress-up in someone else's life. Conversation flowed around her. Business talk disguised as casual chat. References to people and places Emilia didn't know. Inside jokes from decades of shared history. So, Emilia, Claudia said during the third course, her voice honey-sweet. Bianca tells me you worked at Bellissimo. How long were you there? 2 years, ma'am. And before that, a coffee shop, a retail store, various places. A woman of many talents, Claudia dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Tell me, did you always aspire to work in service industries? The subtle emphasis on service made Amelia's cheeks burn. I aspired to pay my rent, Amelia said evenly. Not all of us have trust funds. Several people inhaled sharply.
Marco grinned.
Lorenzo's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Claudia's smile froze. How refreshingly candid. Amelia speaks her mind, Bianca said proudly. It's one of the things I love about her. Clearly, Claudia's tone could have frozen wine. Though perhaps in our circles, dear, discretion is valued more than candor. In my circles, Amelia replied, honesty is valued more than pretending. The tension was thick enough to choke on. A younger woman, Isabella, someone's wife, tried to change the subject. Bianca, your roses are beautiful this year. Has Amelia been helping with the garden?
She has.
She has quite the green thumb. The conversation shifted to safer topics, but Amelia felt Claudia and Marco watching her throughout the meal. Assessing. Calculating. After dinner, as coffee was served in the sitting room, Amelia excused herself to use the restroom. She needed a moment to breathe, to escape the suffocating weight of judgment. She was washing her hands when she heard voices in the hallway, low, angry whispers. Ridiculous. Bianca's completely lost perspective, Claudia's voice. She's lonely, mother. Let her have her charity case, Marco. This isn't about charity. Look at how Lorenzo watches that girl. Bianca's using her to manipulate him. You think. I know. Bianca's been trying to soften Lorenzo for years, make him less focused. This girl is just another tool. If Lorenzo starts listening to her, starts making emotional decisions, we lose influence, Marco finished. The Donatellis have been waiting for Lorenzo to show weakness. If the family thinks he's distracted by some waitress.
Exactly.
We need to remove her. But carefully. If we move against her directly, Bianca will fight us, and Lorenzo will defend his mother. A pause. Then Marco. What if she's not what she seems? What do you mean? What if she's working for someone? The Carbones, maybe. Or the Russians. Plant her close to Bianca, get family secrets, Marco's voice grew excited. If we could prove she's a mole, Lorenzo would remove her himself, Claudia said slowly. And Bianca couldn't protect her. We'd need evidence. Evidence can be arranged. Amelia's blood ran cold. She pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. It's risky, Marco said. If we're caught, we won't be. I'll handle it, Claudia's voice was firm. Give me 3 days. That girl will be exposed, arrested, or dead. Either way, she'll be gone. Their footsteps receded. Amelia stood frozen, her heart hammering. She'd just overheard a plot to frame her, possibly kill her. And she had no proof, no recording, nothing but her own ears. Who would believe her? Lorenzo already suspected her of being a plant. If she went to him with a story, he'd think she was creating drama or deflecting suspicion. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. 3 days. She had 3 days before Claudia made her move. Amelia took a deep breath, steadied herself, and walked back to the sitting room. Bianca smiled when she entered. Lorenzo glanced at her, his expression neutral. Claudia and Marco were laughing at something Isabella had said, looking completely innocent. But Amelia knew the truth. She was in danger, real danger. And she had no idea who to trust. Later that night, as Amelia lay in her luxurious bed unable to sleep, she heard footsteps in the hallway. They paused outside her door. She held her breath. After a long moment, the footsteps continued. But Amelia knew someone had been standing there, watching, waiting. The wolves weren't just circling anymore. They were at her door. Amelia spent 2 sleepless days watching her back. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every friendly smile from staff seemed false. She stayed close to Bianca, hoping proximity to the matriarch would keep her safe. On the 3rd morning, she woke to find her room had been cleaned while she slept. That shouldn't have been possible. Maria always knocked. always waited for permission. Amelia's pulse quickened. She checked her belongings, nothing missing. But something felt wrong. The air in the room had changed, like someone had disturbed it. She was helping Bianca with her morning correspondence when Vincent appeared in the doorway, his usually calm face tense. "Mrs. Moretti, I need to speak with Miss Santos. Privately."
Bianca frowned.
"What's this about?" "It's urgent, ma'am." Amelia's stomach dropped. "This is it. This is Claudia's move." "I'll be right back," she told Bianca, trying to keep her voice steady. She followed Vincent down the hallway, but instead of going to her room, he led her toward the East Wing, Lorenzo's office. Four guards stood outside the door, their expressions grave. "Vincent, what's happening?" He didn't answer, just opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Lorenzo sat behind his desk, his face carved from stone. Frank stood beside him, holding a leather-bound ledger. Marco and Claudia sat in chairs by the window, their expressions carefully neutral. "Sit down, Miss Santos," Lorenzo said coldly. Amelia's hands trembled as she sat. "What's going on?" Frank placed the ledger on the desk in front of her. "This was found in your room, hidden in the back of your closet, behind your suitcase." Amelia stared at it. The leather was old, cracked. Gold lettering on the spine read Moretti Holdings, 2019. "I've never seen that before," she said immediately. "It contains detailed financial records," Lorenzo continued, his voice devoid of emotion. "Transactions that are sensitive. Information that could be very valuable to our competitors." "I didn't take it. I didn't even know it existed." "Then how did it end up in your room?" Marco asked, leaning forward. "These ledgers are kept in Lorenzo's private safe. Only family members know they exist." The trap was perfect. Amelia could see it now. They'd stolen the ledger from Lorenzo's safe and planted it in her room. If she claimed someone framed her, she'd sound paranoid. If she admitted to having it, she was guilty. "Someone put it there," Amelia said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Someone who wants you to think I'm stealing from you." "Or," Claudia said softly, "you were caught and you're desperately trying to deflect blame." Lorenzo stood, walked around the desk. He moved like a predator, controlled, dangerous. "I've been watching you since you arrived, Miss Santos. Waiting for you to slip. To show your true colors." "I know," Amelia said. "I know you've had me investigated. I know you think I'm too good to be true. But I'm not lying. Everyone lies." "Not about this." Amelia stood to face him, even though fear made her knees weak. "I have nothing. No connections, no power, no reason to steal from you. What would I even do with that information? I don't know anyone who'd buy it. I don't know how to contact your enemies. I'm just what?" Lorenzo's voice was dangerously soft. "Just an innocent waitress who happened to help my mother at exactly the right moment? Who happened to be perfectly kind, perfectly trustworthy?" "Yes." Tears burned Amelia's eyes. "I know how it looks. I know it seems impossible. But some people are just good, Mr. Moretti. Some people help others without ulterior motives. I'm sorry that your world has made you forget that." For a moment, just a moment, something flickered in Lorenzo's eyes. Doubt, maybe, or regret. Then the door burst open. Bianca stormed in, her face flushed with fury. "What is happening here?" "Mama, this doesn't concern you." "The hell it doesn't." Bianca's voice could have shattered glass. "You're interrogating my friend without me present." "We found stolen property in her room," Frank said quietly. "Did you?" Bianca turned to Claudia and Marco. "How convenient. And who, exactly, discovered this ledger?"
Marcos shifted uncomfortably.
"The housekeeping staff reported it." "Lies." Bianca pulled out her phone, tapped the screen several times, then turned it toward Lorenzo. "I installed private security cameras in Amelia's room 3 days ago, after the dinner, because I suspected someone might try something exactly like this." The blood drained from Claudia's face. Lorenzo took the phone, his expression darkening as he watched the footage. Amelia could see the screen from where she stood, grainy but clear video of her room. a timestamp showing 4:47 a.m. that morning. The door opened. Marco slipped inside, carrying the ledger. He moved quickly to the closet, pushed aside her suitcase, and placed the book behind it. Then he left, closing the door silently. The silence in the office was deafening. Lorenzo's voice, when he spoke, was colder than ice.
Marco.
Explain. Marco's face had gone from confident to terrified in seconds. It was. Don't. Claudia stood, her composure finally cracking. Don't say anything without a lawyer, Marco. You helped him plan this. It wasn't a question from Lorenzo. It was a statement of fact. Claudia lifted her chin. I was protecting the family. That girl is a distraction. You're the head of this family, Lorenzo. You can't afford to be soft, to let your mother's emotional attachments cloud your judgment. Get out. Lorenzo's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of absolute authority. Both of you. Out of this house.
Now.
Lorenzo, you can't. You attempted to frame an innocent woman. You stole from my private safe. You manipulated my mother's trust. Lorenzo stepped closer to his aunt, his presence overwhelming. You're lucky I don't do worse. You have 1 hour to leave the estate. After that, you're not family anymore. You're trespassers. Marco looked like he might cry. Claudia's face twisted with rage, but she knew better than to argue. They left without another word, the door closing behind them with quiet finality. Lorenzo turned to Amelia. For the first time since she'd met him, she saw genuine emotion in his eyes. Regret.
Shame.
Miss Santos. He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. I was wrong. I should have trusted my mother's judgment. I should have trusted you. Amelia's legs finally gave out. She sank into the chair, shaking. Bianca was at her side immediately, wrapping her in a fierce embrace. You're safe now, dear. You're safe. I'm sorry, Lorenzo said again. I let suspicion blind me to the truth. That won't happen again. Amelia looked up at him, through her tears. You were protecting your family. I understand. You are family, Bianca said fiercely. She is family, Lorenzo. Remember that. Lorenzo nodded slowly. I will. For the first time, when Lorenzo looked at Amelia, she didn't see suspicion.
She saw trust.
And something else. Something that made her breath catch. Respect. The estate transformed over 3 days. Workers arrived in trucks, carrying tables, chairs, lighting equipment. The grand ballroom, a space Amelia hadn't even known existed, was opened for the first time in years, its chandeliers cleaned until they sparkled like diamonds. What exactly is this gathering for? Amelia asked as she helped Bianca review seating arrangements. Politics, Bianca said simply. Lorenzo is consolidating alliances. After the incident with Claudia and Marco, he needs to show the family is still strong. United, she glanced at Amelia. And he wants to introduce you properly. Show everyone that you're under our protection. Won't that make me more of a target? You're already a target, dear. This makes you too expensive to touch. Bianca squeezed her hand. Trust me. The guest list was staggering. 30 families, some allies, some neutral parties, even 2 rival organizations coming under flags of truce. Amelia recognized names from news reports about organized crime, though none of it was ever proven. The Carbones are coming? Amelia stared at the list. Aren't they your enemies? Which is why they're seated far from the Russos, who are our friends, Bianca smiled. It's a delicate dance. Everyone stays civil because the cost of violence here would be too high. Amelia threw herself into helping organize. At first, the estate staff were wary. She was still the outsider, the waitress who'd somehow gained the family's favor. But as she worked alongside them, double-checking place settings, coordinating with caterers, handling last-minute crises, something shifted. Maria, who'd been coolly professional for weeks, actually smiled at her. You have a good eye for detail, Miss Santos. I've worked enough restaurants to know what makes service smooth, Amelia replied, adjusting a centerpiece. By the evening of the gathering, the staff treated her with genuine respect. Not as an equal, perhaps, but as someone who'd earned her place through work rather than manipulation. The ballroom glowed with warm light. Guests arrived in expensive cars, dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits. Emilia wore a midnight blue dress that Bianca had insisted on buying her, simple but elegant, with a high neckline and long sleeves. "You look beautiful," Bianca said, adjusting Emilia's hair. "And remember, stay close to me tonight. These people are sharks. They'll test you." Lorenzo appeared in a black tuxedo, looking every inch the powerful boss. His eyes swept the room, cataloging threats and allies with the efficiency of a military commander. When his gaze landed on Emilia, he nodded slightly, the closest thing to approval she'd seen from him. The evening unfolded like a carefully choreographed play. Conversations happened in corners, deals whispered over champagne. Emilia stayed at Bianca's side, meeting dozens of people whose names blurred together. Anthony Carbone, head of the Carbone family, was tall and silver-haired with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "So, you're the famous Emilia, the girl who saved our dear Bianca from the cruelty of restaurant staff." "I just helped someone who needed it," Emilia said carefully. Humble, too, he studied her like a specimen under glass. "Interesting choice, Bianca. Very unexpected. The best things usually are," Bianca replied coolly. As the night wore on, Emilia found herself relaxing slightly. The gathering was tense, but controlled. No one made overt moves. The peace, however fragile, held. At 10:47 p.m., she was standing near the bar, getting Bianca a glass of water, when she saw it. A glint from outside. Just a flash, caught by the chandelier light, something reflecting on the hillside beyond the garden. Her blood turned to ice. She'd grown up in hunting country. Her father had taught her to shoot when she was 12. She knew what a scope reflection looked like. Her eyes snapped to the windows. The ballroom had floor-to-ceiling glass panels overlooking the garden, beautiful and, she now realized, strategically terrible. Bianca was standing near the center window, laughing at something a guest had said. She was perfectly positioned, perfectly exposed. Emilia didn't think. She ran. "Emilia?" Someone called her name, but she didn't stop. She sprinted across the ballroom, her heels clicking against marble. Guests turned to stare. Lorenzo's security team started moving toward her. Bianca saw her coming, her expression shifting from surprise to confusion. "Emilia, what?" Emilia hit her like a linebacker, tackling her to the ground just as the window exploded. The crack of the gunshot came a split second after the glass shattered. The bullet passed through the space where Bianca's head had been, embedding itself in the opposite wall. Screams erupted. Guests dove for cover. Security swarmed, weapons drawn. Emilia lay on top of Bianca, both of them covered in shattered glass, her ears ringing from the shot. "Stay down," she gasped. "Don't move." Lorenzo appeared above them, his gun drawn, his face transformed into something terrifying. "Get them out of here," he roared. "Lock it down. Nobody leaves." Vincent and two other guards surrounded them, creating a human shield. They half-carried, half-dragged Emilia and Bianca out of the ballroom and into the interior hallway.
"Mama."
"Mama, are you hurt?" Lorenzo knelt beside them, his hands checking Bianca for injuries. I'm fine, Bianca's voice shook. "Emilia, she saved me." She saw it before. Lorenzo's eyes met Emilia's. In them, she saw shock, gratitude, and something that looked like wonder. "You saw the sniper," he said. Emilia nodded, unable to speak. Her whole body was shaking now, adrenaline crashing through her system. How did you know to look?" "I grew up hunting. I know what a scope looks like when light hits it." Her voice came out as a whisper. I saw it and I knew." Lorenzo stared at her for a long moment. Then, in a gesture that stunned everyone watching, he took her hand. "You saved my mother's life. Is she okay? Is she hurt?" "A few cuts from the glass. Nothing serious." His grip tightened. "Because of you." Outside, they could hear shouting. Security teams mobilizing. The sound of vehicles arriving. Did you get him? Bianca asked. We're searching now, Lorenzo stood, but didn't release Emilia's hand. He pulled her up gently. But whoever they are, they just made a fatal mistake. His expression was cold, lethal. Nobody shoots at my mother, and nobody threatens my family. He looked at Emilia when he said family, and this time, she knew he meant her too. The gathering had turned into a war zone. But Emilia had done the impossible. She'd saved the queen. And in doing so, she'd proven exactly where she belonged. The estate became a fortress within minutes. Every entrance locked, every guest detained for questioning. No one in or out until Lorenzo said otherwise. Emilia sat in a secure room with Bianca, both wrapped in blankets, despite the warm night. A doctor had bandaged the cuts on their arms from the shattered glass. Minor injuries, miraculously. Bianca held Emilia's hand tightly, as if afraid to let go. You could have died, Bianca whispered. You could have been shot protecting me. I wasn't thinking about that. Exactly, Bianca's eyes filled with tears. You just acted.
No hesitación.
Do you understand what that means? Emilia shook her head. It means you're braver than most of the soldiers in this family. It means you have the instinct to protect rather than run. Bianca squeezed her hand. It means I chose well. The door opened. Lorenzo entered, his face grim, blood on his shirt cuff. Frank followed, carrying a tablet. We got them, Lorenzo said without preamble. 2 shooters. Professional contractors, former military. They're being interrogated now. And Bianca's voice was steady, but Emilia heard the steel beneath. They were hired through an intermediary, paid in cryptocurrency, the usual untraceable methods. But Frank's team applied pressure. They gave up the name of who contracted them. He paused, his jaw clenching. Marco. The name hung in the air like poison. Bianca's face went white. My nephew arranged this? After everything. He was desperate, Frank said quietly, pulling up documents on the tablet. After being expelled from the family, he lost everything. His accounts were frozen, his reputation destroyed. The Carbones approached him with an offer. Help them eliminate you, Mrs. Moretti, and they'd set him up with a new identity and income overseas. Why target Mama? Lorenzo's voice was dangerously soft. Why not me? Because killing you would start a war, Frank explained. But your mother's death could be framed as a tragedy, an accident at a public gathering with rival families present. Blame could be shifted to the Russos or another enemy. In the chaos, Marco thought he could slip away unnoticed.
Claudia, Bianca breathed.
Did she know?
No.
Our interrogation confirms Marco acted alone after their expulsion. He blamed you for his exile, blamed Emilia for exposing him. Lorenzo's expression was carved from ice. He wanted revenge. Emilia felt sick. He tried to kill your mother because I caught him framing me? He tried to kill my mother because he's a coward who couldn't accept consequences for his actions, Lorenzo corrected. This isn't your fault, Miss Santos. Where is he now? Bianca asked. Frank and Lorenzo exchanged a glance. In custody, Lorenzo said carefully. He's being held in a secure location. The question is, what do we do with him? The room fell silent. Emilia suddenly understood the weight of what was being discussed. In this world, family betrayal wasn't handled by the police or courts. It was handled internally. What are the options? Bianca's voice was hollow. Permanent exile. We strip him of the family name, all assets, all connections. He disappears and never comes back, Frank said. Or we handle it the old way, Lorenzo finished quietly. Bianca closed her eyes. He's still my nephew. My blood. Who hired killers to murder you, Mama? I know, her voice broke. I know what he did. But I'm tired, Lorenzo. So tired of death and violence. If we kill him, where does it end? Lorenzo knelt beside his mother's chair, taking her hand. It ends with you safe. It ends with the message that anyone who tries to hurt you will face absolute consequences. Exile, Bianca said firmly. Strip him of everything,
Make sure everyone knows why.
but let him live. Emilia saw the struggle on Lorenzo's face, the desire to protect his mother warring with respect for her wishes. As you wish, he said finally. But he leaves tonight. No goodbyes, no second chances. He's ghost. What about the Carbones? Emilia asked. They hired him. That, Lorenzo said, standing, is being addressed. Anthony Carbone is currently explaining to me why I shouldn't interpret tonight's events as an act of war. His smile was cold. He's being very apologetic and very generous with reparations. Over the next hour, the pieces fell into place. The shooters were turned over to whatever organization handled such things. Marco was loaded into a van, destination unknown. The guests were released with profuse apologies and generous gifts to ensure their silence. And through it all, word spread. Emilia Santos had saved Bianca Moretti's life. 3 days later, Bianca called a meeting. Not an intimate gathering, a formal assembly in the estate's grand hall. Every remaining member of the Moretti family attended, along with key allies and associates. Emilia stood beside Bianca, terrified and confused about why she'd been summoned. Bianca rose, regal in a cream suit, her voice carrying through the silent room. 3 weeks ago, I fell in a restaurant. I was mocked, dismissed, treated as disposable by people who saw me as nothing but an inconvenient old woman. She paused, letting the words sink in. One person helped me. One person showed me dignity and kindness without knowing who I was or what I could offer. Her eyes found Emilia. That person is Emilia Santos. And 5 nights ago, she threw herself between me and a bullet. She saved my life without hesitation, without thought for her own safety. Bianca took Emilia's hand, pulling her forward. I lost my daughter 15 years ago. The pain of that loss never faded. I thought I would die with that emptiness inside me, her voice wavered. But Emilia has shown me that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's love. It's sacrifice. She turned to face Emilia directly, tears streaming down her face. You are the daughter I didn't know I still had. And I claim you here before everyone.
Your family now.
Not as staff. Not as a companion. As my daughter. The hall erupted in applause, genuine, warm, respectful. Emilia couldn't speak. Tears blurred her vision as Bianca embraced her tightly. Thank you, Bianca whispered. Thank you for giving me a reason to smile again. Lorenzo approached, his expression softer than Emilia had ever seen it. Welcome to the family, he said. Officially. And for the first time since this strange journey began, Emilia felt like she truly belonged. The story spread through the city's underworld like wildfire. The waitress who saved the queen. Within days, Emilia's name carried weight in circles she'd never imagined entering. When she accompanied Bianca to a charity luncheon, a front for neutral territory negotiations between families, women who'd once ignored her now sought her attention. Miss Santos, I heard about the gathering. How terrifying. You were so brave, dear. Simply remarkable. My husband would love to meet you. He has such respect for quick thinking. Emilia found it surreal. She was the same person who'd served pasta and scrubbed tables, yet now these wealthy, powerful people treated her like she mattered. Not because of money or connections, but because she'd proven herself when it counted. The gossip columns changed their tune, too. No longer Moretti's mistress, but Bianca's guardian angel, and the woman who earned her place. But it was the private shifts that affected Emilia most. She was in the library one evening, curled in a leather chair with a book, when Lorenzo entered. He rarely sought her out directly. Their interactions had been polite, but distant since the gathering. May I? He gestured to the chair across from her. Of course, Emilia set down her book. Lorenzo sat, and for a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it was weighted with unspoken things. I owe you an apology, he said finally. A real one. You already apologized. After the ledger. I apologized for being wrong. I didn't apologize for the method. Lorenzo leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. I had you investigated like a criminal. Surveilled like a threat. I looked for darkness in you because I assumed everyone had darkness. That was unfair. Emilia considered her words carefully. You were protecting your family. I understand that. Understanding doesn't make it right, he paused. My mother says you grew up hunting. That's how you recognize the scope reflection. My father taught me. Back in Pennsylvania, hunting wasn't just sport. It was how we ate. She smiled slightly. I was a better shot than my brother. He hated that. Have you shot recently? Not in years. I couldn't afford a gun in the city, and ranges are expensive. Lorenzo stood. Come with me. He led her through hallways to a part of the estate she'd never seen, downstairs into a basement level that opened into a pristine shooting range. Soundproofed walls, multiple lanes, a rack of weapons secured behind glass. I come here to think, Lorenzo said, unlocking the case. He pulled out a handgun, a sleek 9mm. It clears my head, helps me focus. He loaded the weapon with practiced efficiency, then offered it to her. Show me what your father taught you. Emilia took the gun, feeling its familiar weight. She checked the safety, tested the grip, then stepped up to the lane. Target at 25 yards. She aimed, exhaled, and fired. 3 shots in quick succession. All 3 hit center mass. When she turned back, Lorenzo was smiling, a real smile, not the polite mask he usually wore. Your brother was right to be annoyed, he said. You're a natural. It's been a while.
I'm rusty.
Rusty, he laughed, a sound she'd rarely heard. You just put 3 rounds in a 5-inch grouping. That's not rusty, Miss Santos. That's skill. Emilia, she said. You can call me Emilia. I think we're past formalities. Something flickered in his expression. Emilia, then. And you can call me Lorenzo. When it's just us. They spent an hour in the range. Lorenzo brought out different weapons, teaching her about ones she'd never handled. He stood close when demonstrating grip adjustments, his hand briefly covering hers, and Emilia felt electricity run through her at the contact. She pushed the feeling away. This was Lorenzo Moretti, dangerous, powerful, and so far out of her league it was laughable. The fact that her heart raced when he smiled at her was irrelevant. But as they walked back upstairs, he said quietly, Thank you. For what? For giving my mother her life back. For giving her joy, he stopped, turning to face her in the dim hallway. And for showing me that good people still exist. The way he looked at her made Emilia's breath catch. Not with suspicion or calculation, but with something warmer. Something that made her pulse quicken. I should go, she said softly. Bianca will wonder where I am. Lorenzo nodded, but didn't step back. For a heartbeat, they stood too close, the air between them charged with possibility. Then Lorenzo moved aside, the moment breaking. Good night, Emilia. Good night, Lorenzo. The next morning, Bianca summoned Emilia to her private sitting room. 3 other women were there, wives of high-ranking family members, all older and clearly influential. Emilia, darling, we need your perspective, Bianca said. The Donatellis want to form a partnership with our shipping operations. But there's history, complicated history. Angela here thinks we should refuse. Maria thinks we should accept with conditions. What do you think? Emilia blinked. I don't know anything about shipping operations. But you understand people. You read them well. Bianca gestured for her to sit. Tell me, what do you see in the Donatelli proposal? She handed Emilia a document. Emilia read through it slowly, noting the language, the terms, the small details buried in paragraphs of legal jargon. This clause here, Emilia pointed. It gives them access to your shipping manifests. All of them, not just the ones for shared cargo. Angela leaned forward. Meaning? Meaning they'd know everything you're moving, even private family shipments. That's not a partnership. That's surveillance disguised as cooperation. The room fell silent. "Smart girl," Maria said approvingly. "I missed that."
Bianca smiled.
"I thought so too, but I wanted confirmation. We'll refuse the deal." Over the following days, Bianca increasingly pulled Amelia into discussions, never about violence or criminal activities, but about relationships, territory disputes, family politics. Amelia's outsider perspective, her ability to read intentions, became valuable. She wasn't just Bianca's companion anymore. She was becoming her advisor, her confidant. And in the halls of the Moretti estate, people began treating her not with fear or suspicion, but with respect. The waitress had disappeared. In her place stood something new, a woman who'd found her strength by saving another's life, and in doing so, had discovered she belonged to something bigger than herself. She'd found family. And maybe, just maybe, she'd found something else too, in the quiet moments when Lorenzo's eyes met hers and the world seemed to hold its breath. Amelia stood outside Bellissimo, staring at the brass-handled doors she'd walked through 1,000 times. It had been 3 weeks since her last visit, the day she'd collected her final paycheck and endured Chelsea's accusations. It felt like a lifetime ago. "Are you sure about this?" Vincent asked from beside her. The black Mercedes idled at the curb, impossible to miss. "I need closure," Amelia said. "I need to see it one last time." She pushed through the doors. The lunch rush was ending. The same tables, the same marble floors, the same expensive art on the walls. But Amelia didn't feel small here anymore. Didn't feel invisible. Sarah saw her first. The waitress froze mid-step, her tray wobbling. "Oh my God." Conversations died. Heads turned. Every staff member stopped what they were doing to stare. The new manager, a thin man with nervous eyes that Amelia didn't recognize, rushed forward. "Miss Santos, we weren't expecting, it's an honor." "I'm just here to say goodbye," Amelia said gently, "to the place where everything changed." She walked slowly through the dining room, remembering the spot where Bianca had fallen, the table where she'd sat for hours, watching the street, the corner where Amelia had hidden during her break, eating leftover bread and dreaming of something more. The kitchen doors swung open. Sarah emerged, tears in her eyes. "Amelia, I'm so sorry."
For what I said.
For believing the tabloids. For her voice broke. "You were always kind to me, and I treated you like garbage when you needed support." Amelia squeezed her hand. "It's okay. You were scared. I understand. You're really one of them now?" The Morettis. "I'm family," Amelia said simply. "Not by blood, but by choice." She said goodbye to the kitchen staff, the bartender, even the busboy who'd always stolen her tips. Some apologized. Some just stared. All of them watched her leave with something like awe. Outside, Vincent opened the car door. 3 black SUVs had joined the Mercedes, an escort befitting her new status. As they drove away, Amelia looked back one last time at Bellissimo. The girl who'd worked there was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Someone who'd faced danger and survived. Someone who'd earned her place through courage rather than circumstance. The villa glowed in the afternoon sun. Bianca waited in the entrance hall, dressed in elegant silver, her smile radiant. "How did it feel?" she asked, embracing Amelia. Like closing a chapter, Amelia pulled back. "A necessary one."
"Good.
"Because we're writing a new chapter now."
Come."
Bianca led her to the formal sitting room where the family assembly had taken place. But today, only 3 people waited: Bianca, Frank, and Lorenzo. Lorenzo stood by the window, wearing a charcoal suit, his expression unreadable. When Amelia entered, he turned. "Miss Santos," he walked toward her, and something in his formality made her nervous. "These past weeks, you've proven yourself in ways I didn't think possible. You've shown loyalty, courage, and integrity in a world where those qualities are rare." He stopped in front of her, and his voice softened. "You saved my mother's life.
You gave her joy when I couldn't.
You reminded me that good people exist." He paused, seeming to struggle with emotion. I can never repay that debt. But I want you to know, you'll always have a place here. Always be protected. Always be family. Thank you, Emilia whispered. Lorenzo did something unexpected then. He pulled her into a brief, tight embrace, the kind reserved for trusted family, not employees. Thank you, he said quietly, just for her. For everything. When he released her, Bianca stepped forward. Emilia Santos, I officially name you my permanent confidant and personal advisor. Not as staff, but as family. You'll have an annual income, full access to family resources, and a voice in matters that affect our household. Bianca's eyes glistened. Most importantly, you'll have my love. Always. Frank handed Bianca a velvet box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant, the Moretti family crest. This belonged to my daughter, Bianca said, fastening it around Emilia's neck. Now it belongs to you. Wear it with pride. Emilia touched the pendant, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. Say you'll keep being exactly who you are. I will. I promise. That evening, Emilia stood on her balcony, watching the sun set over the city. The skyline glittered gold and orange, millions of lights beginning to flicker on as darkness approached. From up here, she could see the streets where she'd struggled, the neighborhoods where she'd worked minimum-wage jobs and counted pennies, the world that had once seemed so vast and indifferent. She touched the pendant at her throat, feeling its weight. 10 days ago, she'd been nobody, a waitress living paycheck to paycheck, invisible to everyone around her. Today, she was family to one of the most powerful organizations in the city. But the strangest part? She hadn't changed. She was still the same person who'd helped an old woman off the floor because it was the right thing to do. Still the girl who believed in kindness over cruelty, compassion over convenience. She hadn't chased power, hadn't manipulated or schemed. She'd simply been good. And somehow, that had been enough. The balcony door opened behind her. Lorenzo stepped out, 2 glasses of wine in hand. He offered her one. Beautiful view, he said. It is. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe. What are you thinking? Lorenzo asked. Emilia smiled. That kindness is more powerful than I ever imagined. Lorenzo studied her profile, something warm in his expression. You're extraordinary, Emilia Santos. I hope you know that. I'm just me. Exactly. The city stretched before them, full of possibility, full of life. Emilia had started this journey trying to survive. She'd ended it finding something far more valuable, a family, a purpose, and the knowledge that one moment of compassion could change everything. She hadn't chased power. Kindness had led power to her. And that made all the difference.